Call the regular meeting of the Charter Revision Committee to order. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Dig out my... I'm gonna put my agenda. All right. Correspondence, do we have anything in?
No.
No? Okay. Public input. Mr. Zakowski.
Thank you, Paul Zetkowski, 24 Winthrop Road. I really came here tonight to thank all of you. It's been a difficult job for you guys, and I really appreciate it, and I know the town people really appreciate what you're trying to do here tonight. As I said a little bit earlier, I've been following the progress of this commission, and the only thing I can say, you've been doing a tremendous job. I saw what Mr. B had submitted to you relative to my favorite subject, the shovel-ready. I've read it several times, and I said, that makes a lot of sense. It gives the Board of Selectmen the ability to be flexible in case there is anything that deals with grants, state or federal. So, that's my message tonight, and I'd like to just end it on saying thank you again for your hard work. I sat on one of these commissions, and I know that it takes a lot of time out of your own personal lives. And I know the townspeople will say to you in the future, and probably even today, thank you again for your hard work. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to approval of minutes from our last meeting.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from our November 6, 2019 meeting.
Second. Any conversation about the minutes from the special meeting from last week?
I'd just like to make a comment.
Sure.
Where we vote unanimously, I don't think our discussion needs to be in the minutes, but where we don't, and we voted party lines or other things, it might be nice to know what some of the discussion about that proposal or motion was. Right now, it just says, discussion ensued or something. And just so anybody else reading our minutes would understand why it wasn't a unanimous vote.
I have one thing.
Sure.
Sharon, you all set?
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the last page, I wanted the minutes to reflect that the commission didn't think we wanted to move forward with combining the two budgets. If you read this, it looks like we were talking about splitting the two.
Where is this?
On the last page, it says, discussion ensued that the board would not move forward with discussion on splitting the budgets. We talked about that we didn't want to, they're already split.
Yeah.
We talked about that we don't want to combine them. Our recommendation is that we don't
Yeah.
combine them.
Mm-hmm.
So
That
I
was
want to
just-
amend the minutes to that, okay?
So change splitting to combining.
Yeah.
Right, it was the opposite of what I was trying to try in the minutes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I think that was in reference to that it was brought up in public comment.
Yes.
And everybody was
But-
against
but-
trying to put it back together.
Yeah, but we never
Mhm.
formalized any.
Right, we never moved forward, but because we thought that it should stay separate.
Yeah, and yeah.
And this reads the other way, so
Yeah.
I just wanted, yep, thank
And
you.
we just wanted public
Yep.
record.
That's all I had, thank you.
And I haven't seen my full name spelled out this often since high school detentions.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So with those changes, I want to amend my motion, okay, for that, yep.
Any other changes that anybody sees? All right, seeing none. Take a vote on the minutes as amended.
Does nobody second that?
Oh, I'll second the
Thank you.
amendment then, to the minutes. All right,
any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll make all in favor of approving the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, minutes pass. Okay, so approval is done. Final deliberations for the proposed charter revisions. I think let's hop right to the prior referenced verbiage that Mr. Vitti submitted to us.
Oh, and Nick, I
Yep.
just wanted to say, Nick had said, you know, to print it off in color. I don't have access to a
Yeah.
color printer that does front and back.
Okay.
So
Yep.
that's why it's black and white, front and back. Try
Okay.
to use the least amount of paper and,
Yeah, that
I
makes
couldn't
sense.
get it to print at home either,
so.
so.
Mhm.
So anyway, I just wanted to let y'all know that's why.
Yeah, yep.
And we all tried at home too, but it
Right,
didn't
we just
work.
talked
so.
about that.
Mhm. Okay. Let me actually pull up the email just so I can properly read his. Alright, so it's the lighter section, Dion, right? I'm just trying
Yes,
to make
the
sure.
lighter section.
Okay. Okay, so I'll read, what Nick submitted. So for section C6-8, action requiring referendum.
Second.
It's
Oh,
that,
right,
the
the
one
separate
piece,
page,
yeah,
right,
yep, it's not in the.
Yep.
Any proposed capital expenditure for $1 million or more, except capital utility projects that are funded exclusively through user fees, grants, and/or loans, shall be submitted to the persons qualified to vote thereon for a vote by voting machine, said vote to be conducted in accordance with terms of sections 7-7 and 7-9B of the Connecticut General Statutes. Capital utility projects as described herein that have proposed capital expenditures of $2 million or more shall be submitted to the persons qualified to vote thereon for a vote by voting machine in accordance with the above described statutory sections. And then I think this is all brand new. There's sections of that that he added on. Any proposed capital construction project of $1 million or more shall have a final completed construction plans prior to the scheduling of any referendum for approval of said project. Completed construction plans shall mean any and all drawings, maps, documents, specifications, architectural blueprints, and/or elevations, surveys, engineering plans, and the like that will allow the project to be fully bid in order to attain the most precise cost estimates for the project. The requirement for the completed construction plans as stated herein may be waived by a majority vote of the Board of Selectmen when a construction project is a public school building receiving reimbursement or grant money from the state or sources other than purely town sources for payment of the project, or 2, relies upon bonding and/or state or federal funding sources so that those sources could be compromised by the requirement to have completed construction plans. All right. So I guess I'll open up for discussion on this before we take any motions, if everybody's comfortable with that, and just kind of get a sense of the committee's feeling on the proposed language and if it meets what we intended, or what we've been discussing.
I think it was well done, and it left it flexible enough that if the Board of Selectmen decides that it's not necessary to go forward with full plans and engineering, they can work around it.
Mhm.
So I was kind of impressed with the language, so
Yeah.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it leaves the flexibility in. And I think it doesn't create any unintended consequences in terms of pitfalls that, you know, we get to the process and aren't able to move forward. So.
We talked about it being political, right? And this almost takes the politics out of it, because if 2/3 are gonna vote to waive it, they are certainly gonna make sure the process, if they wanna be elected again, is realistic.
Yeah.
That there's a real estimate to make sure that we don't get a $1 million overrun. So just the fact that this is in the charter, I think, I'm sorry, we talked about it being a political hot potato.
Yep.
I think this takes it right out, the fact that this charter revision commission is putting it in.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yep. And it assigns ownership, and I think that's one of the
Right, that's what I mean. It's political suicide, if somebody thinks you're gonna get 2 votes to just let this thing go,
Yep.
they're gonna be in trouble really quick.
Yeah.
And you know how we do the 2-year, 4-year, and we've been debating that? That's exactly why, if a set of selectmen wanted to do something like that, why it needs to be a 2-year term, because we're gonna vote them out next time
Yep.
for doing things like that.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to say, as someone who's pushed for this, just to be clear, it's not reflection on anyone who's done past projects. I think everyone who's done the past projects are very confident, very qualified.
Yep.
And I think this is just a tool to help them in the process on it.
This is a charter revision, this is for the next 5 years.
Yep.
We're not talking about past, we're just
No,
trying to
yeah,
make things
yeah.
I
better
just wanna make sure
moving
we're
forward.
But that's an important point, that we're
Right.
not just
Yeah.
overreacting to what's
No,
happened in our
To the
recent
past,
past.
we're
Yeah,
trying to make
it's-
it better
yeah.
moving forward. And we don't even have a project in mind yet, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Any other comments about it? Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that we add the verbiage for 6C-8 action requiring a referendum, and I guess we'll mark it as a charter change for shovel-ready plans. Is that all right, or you'll fluff it up
Yeah,
a little bit
yeah.
for a motion?
Yeah,
That's my motion.
right, so, just to confirm, the motion is to accept the verbiage submitted by Attorney
The
Biddy
attorney.
as proposed for, section.
But you also want to include the capital part of the project one, right?
The entire language of this
Yeah,
document.
Including
the
the
full
first-
proposal
Yeah,
and
because that
adjustments
has to do
to.
with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
6-8, the whole thing,
Thing.
right?
Yep,
I'll
yep,
do it just the way I did the minutes last week. I'll,
yeah, exactly,
the
yep.
whole, you know.
Except it looked like I didn't shut up last week.
It's recorded.
Check the film.
Hey, you all don't need to agree with me.
Yes.
Gee.
Right? Did you have that?
I didn't bring
No, I didn't think.
Did I have
Asked
it?
the
Yes.
question. Oh, I wasn't sure you had that.
Oh,
No,
actually,
I-
wait, yeah,
okay.
so,
I actually read it when it was sent, I actually,
Yeah.
took me a couple
so
times.
we're
but
actually
I
gonna
like the
need
language.
2 different motions.
Oh,
Yeah, cause I'm just looking, so the red language is a separate charter change, and the blue language. Do you have the color coded one?
Yeah, do you want to see?
Yeah, let me just have that so I can read that.
Yeah.
Right there, I did it. No, right there.
this?
No, not that.
Alright, so I'll,
It's,
One of everything.
I'll make a new motion.
This one?
We'll,
no.
you
Wait a
just, you wanna
second.
rescind that motion, and then I'll just, because it's, the red language is
Right,
the,
both of
a
it.
charter
Thank
change,
you.
and then the blue is the
Yeah,
new,
that's fine.
so.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
I'll rescind that.
Alright, so I'm gonna make a motion to, accept the separate charter change under C6-8, which is any proposed capital expenditure of $1 million or more, except capital utility projects that are funded exclusively through user fees, grants, or loans, shall be submitted to persons qualified to vote thereon for a vote by voting machine. Said vote to be conducted in accordance with terms of section 7-7 and 7-9D of the Connecticut General Statutes. Capital utility projects as described herein that have proposed capital expenditures of $2 million or more shall be submitted to persons qualified to vote thereon for a vote by voting machine in accordance with the above described statutory sections. All right?
And I will second that motion.
Okay, second. Any discussion on those? All right, hearing none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right, passes 6-0-0. All right, and now I'm gonna make another motion to accept new charter language pertaining to shovel-ready plans. Any proposed capital construction project of $1 million or more shall have final completed construction plans prior to the scheduling of any referendum for approval of said project. Completed construction plans shall mean any and all drawings, maps, documents, specifications, architectural blueprints, and/or elevation surveys, engineering plans, and the like that will allow the project to be fully bid in order to attain the most precise cost estimate for the project. The requirement of the completed construction plans as stated herein may be waived by a majority vote of the Board of Selectmen when a construction project is a public school building receiving reimbursement or grant money from the state or sources other than purely town sources for payment of the project, or 2, relies upon bonding and/or state or federal funding sources so that those sources would be compromised by the requirement to have completed construction plans. Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor, signify
Aye.
by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right, passes 6-0.
We did a good thing.
That's great, yeah, no, I think a lot of other charter revision commissions will be looking at that change. Other towns, not us coming back in 5 years, being like, oh, man.
You never know.
Yeah, that's it.
When they
Well,
reopen
good,
next
excellent.
month.
Yeah.
Where's the other?
Yes, yeah, yeah. All right, so we're through on that one. C8-5. I had a couple questions. It was on I think we're gonna pursue that one. The C8-5, the Emergency Management Director, the change from Director of Civil Preparedness. I just wanna take a look and see.
Joan asked that, Nick
Yeah.
Judy look into whether or not that was the common usage or the state had
Yeah, yeah.
anything that was.
If it conflicted with
Yeah,
the state statute, that's what.
right.
So I'm seeing.
I wonder if it did on that one.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I didn't see anything from him in that either.
I don't see it in Nick's,
Yeah, in his response
Right.
either. Alright. So I think absent any clarification on that, my inclination is just to not move it to a
Right.
motion. Just kinda, it could be a future.
You don't think we could take the recommendation from the fire marshal or the emergency manager?
I think we need to be sure it agrees with the statute, and
Yeah, let me just
it doesn't hurt to
look at how
wait
it's written.
till next meeting, and that's gonna be a quick one.
Cause, yeah, I would,
Emergency EMS
Yeah.
is common terminology these days.
Cause my hesitation is it's the C8-5 is Director of Civil Preparedness. If I recall, Melanie thought that might be a state mandated statute, that we have a
That's
Director of
right, yeah,
Civil.
but it's still, well, as we all know, this needs to agree with the statutes.
Yeah,
So, right,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's worth it to wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, yeah, I think we can keep it in there, and even if his title functionally is different.
Right, and it won't take long to look that up.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Sorry, which one was that?
C8-5.
C8-5, Director of Civil Preparedness,
Yep.
Emergency Management. Alright, and then the new department language, did Nick say anything on that? Sorry, I'm just pulling up.
Nick,
Yep.
also on, C-7 or C7-11.
Mm-hmm.
That motion was, that was tabled. So
C7 dash, yep. Is that on the front page?
that's on the front
Yeah,
page.
public utilities.
And
Yeah, and because I think that plays into, the new department needed, which was the Department of Public Utilities, remove
Okay.
language reference Department of Public Works.
so you wanna do that first?
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
trying to see if, did Nick send on that? Did he do that?
C7.
He has some revised, yes.
Yeah.
Section revised.
Okay. And that's in the large file you sent it to?
Yes.
So C7 or C8-14.
Oh, wait.
There it is,
It's
okay.
from
Yep.
7 to
Yeah, so
5
C8,
to
yeah, so
7.
So the new C8-14 is Department of Public Utilities. There shall be a Department of Public Utilities which shall have and encompass the powers and duties of the town water and sewer department and further powers and duties as the Board of Selectmen may grant said department. Board of Selectmen shall appoint a qualified person to be the Director of Public Utilities. Said director shall be administrative head of the Public Utilities Department and as such shall be responsible for the efficiency, discipline, and good conduct of the Public Utilities Department operations of the town. The Director of Public Utilities shall organize the public utilities operations in such a manner as he shall deem most economical and efficient.
Nick, what are you reading?
Yeah,
I'm
because
sorry,
I'm
you're
not-
not reading the
I'm
same
not
thing
reading
that we're
that.
talking
I'm not
about.
where you are.
What are you reading?
C8-14?
Yeah,
No,
this
we
is
were talking about
7-11.
7
Well,
to 11.
we gotta start at C8-14 to
Okay.
get to C7-11.
Okay, so.
Okay, let us get there.
Sorry, so it's on the large file?
Yep.
Yep.
Looking at it going.
What are we looking at now?
So C8-14,
Yeah.
if you look at the
Yep, right
large,
there.
it's on the bottom of,
Underline?
yeah, underlined,
C8-14.
Sharon.
yep, Department of Public Utilities.
Public utilities, yeah.
So.
8:14.
The one that Dion gave us today?
That's what I
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So it's establishing a Department of Public Utilities separate from the Department of Public Works.
This is where I had a question.
Mhm.
I mean, do we have the authority to create a new department that will cost money that's not in the budget? I mean, is that, I'm a little concerned about creating a whole new department.
Well, the town voted to keep the water and sewer instead of selling it to Aquarion.
Right.
So by virtue of that, we chose to go into the public utilities business.
Well, public utilities is its own entity.
Yeah.
For the town, has nothing to do with the town budget.
Yeah, and it's funded through the user
User
fees.
fees.
Okay.
Yep.
An enterprise fund.
Mhm.
Nick, if I may,
Sure.
the wordage there that the Board of Selectmen can appoint a qualified person, wasn't in that original wordage from the Selectmen's office that you need to be an engineer, a licensed engineer?
That came up last week, I don't remember seeing that. I think that's something operationally you guys can list as, you know, in the hiring, in the job description.
Would that have been in the letter, the original letter?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Do we
So-
have job qualifications for other positions in the
Yeah, I don't know
charter?
if we do.
I don't know if we detail like the educational background or any of those things.
It was to be included in the public works directive, and I think we would want it to be, included in the public utilities directive also.
So this is currently being done by Public Works, and we branch off from them because of the,
No, but
Public works is different from.
public, yeah, there's public utilities and public works, they're two separate departments.
so Well, I don't understand, we're making this department public utilities now, who's doing it currently? Who's taking,
Public utilities, but in the old charter, there was, Public Works was responsible for
for
little
both?
jobs.
Yeah.
Okay,
So now they're separated.
okay.
Just looking at some of the other job descriptions in there.
Should be.
I'm trying to find it in the letter from the selectmen. But
I mean, even the town engineer, it doesn't outline, certifications or education background.
You're saying the selectmen would then spec out the job before they put it out?
Yeah, I think it gives them that, the flexibility where,
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's better, probably better that way.
mhm.
What are your concerns, Richard?
That the person shall be an engineer, a qualified engineer,
Mhm.
not someone who just has the qualifications to run the department. He needs to be an engineer, and we can save on money by not hiring an engineer to do certain functions of the department.
That's a point well taken.
Mhm.
that makes sense.
That was, and I,
Yeah, no,
the
okay,
two of us are here, so I can't say too much.
yep, yep.
See,
I don't have a problem with adding that. It makes sense. I mean,
Yeah,
how can you
yeah.
run this kind of
Mhm.
business without being an engineer, at least a civil engineer at
Yeah.
the minimum?
Appoint a qualified person, and that's, a qualified person is too ambiguous, right?
Mhm.
You can change it to licensed engineer.
Mhm. I'm not familiar with, is there licensing for engineer, or is it,
Yeah, I don't,
yeah.
well, do you have a licensed engineer now?
No, the previous gentleman was not a licensed engineer.
Mhm.
So what do other utility departments have? What do other towns do? What do they have?
They generally have a license. If you look in the current charter, I think it does say licensed engineer.
Just licensed engineer,
I think so,
okay.
Mhm.
or it should have, something like that.
Yeah, cause I'm not seeing any other language to refer.
And you always could come back to that.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
gonna recommend
Yeah,
maybe we
let's-
have.
So
Yeah,
let's
let's
table that
come
again
back to
until we can
that.
get,
Yeah,
I
table
don't wanna put,
the wrong terminology.
Yeah. Reference licensing
Right.
when it's not.
Well, right now, we could just put, maybe to hold it,
Mhm.
qualified personnel or something,
Mhm.
or qualified director, or whatever you want,
So it's
something.
appoint qualified. So it's basically, we wanna better define a qualified person,
Right.
what that actually means.
That's what,
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I guess we will table that. C8-9. That's what we just went through, right? C8-4, no,
We voted on C8-9.
yeah,
We were at C8-14 just now.
yep.
I'm sorry, you said you voted on C8-9?
Last week.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, it said C8-9, Larry voted
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that.
that-
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
C8-9 is the Department of Public Works, new department needed.
right.
Okay. So back, yeah, so we're actually,
8-9,
there's
I had
there's
two people.
language we have to approve, so we're moving away from the new position needed, which is C8-14, right?
Right,
All right, that's tabled.
let's see.
And there's new language for C8-9,
Okay,
the Department of Public Works.
yes.
Okay, and the change is, there shall be a Department of Public Works which shall have and encompass the powers and duties, including but not limited to the maintenance of town roads and fleet vehicles and the maintenance of town buildings, and further powers and duties as the Board of Selectmen may grant said department. The Board of Selectmen shall appoint a qualified person to be the director of the Department of Public Works, who may also serve as the town engineer. Said director shall be the administrative head for the Public Works Department, and as such shall be responsible for the efficiency, discipline, and good conduct of the public works operation of the town. The director of Public Works shall organize the public works operation in such a manner as he or she shall deem most economically efficient. Okay. So it struck the language of the town water department, town department of roads, and town sewer department. So it's really just, it's aligning them with the changes. So I'll make a motion to accept the amendments to section C8-9, Department of Public Works.
I'll second that motion.
Second, all right, any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, I'll move to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 6-0-0. And then we just gotta clarify. Shovel-ready. Is there anything I'm missing that we passed over last week?
Okay, so with that said, do you want to go back and, are we just gonna table C711 again? Can we just make that known if that's what you wanna do?
Yeah, C711 is,
Change to 7 members for.
oh, yeah,
three for selectmen.
because we
The
probably just
verbiage
make
has
that
been
change.
added.
Yeah, so, yeah, let's go through that then and get that done. Alright, so C711, Public Utilities Commission. The Board of Selectmen shall appoint in accordance with the provisions of this charter, a Public Utilities Commission consisting of 7 members, and 3 of which shall be the Board of Selectmen. The commission members shall serve a 2-year term. The terms of the selectmen members shall run from the time they take office. The remaining 4 members shall be appointed by the selectmen in accordance with section C7-2A. So it's a change from 5 to 7. And the rationale was to be able to bring on people
More
with the
expertise to the
competency.
committee, the commission, right? I'll second your motion if you're done with it.
Okay.
Were we gonna add the, I'm trying to remember why we tabled this, I think I'd asked if, it has to be worded that they stagger.
Oh, that's where Sharon,
And we
stopped
held off
talking
for the
about
4-year
last week.
vote.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's why, because we
Yeah.
didn't, we were supposed to
Right.
revisit it last week and we forgot to go back to it.
Correct.
Once we established the 4-year. Okay.
Yeah,
My
Sharon's
concern
so
would
upset
be-
we didn't go back to it.
If they all run 2 years, then every 2 years you could get a whole,
You're having 7 new people,
every time.
Yeah.
yeah.
Does it have to be worded in there? I don't know how. Because other committees, I think, do like, half one election, half the next
Mhm.
election. So do the 4 go opposite year of a selectman election? I don't know if it has to be
Yeah,
worded in there
yeah.
or it goes in the,
No, that's a good point. I think so, yeah.
Mhm.
According to section C7-2A. Well, let's look at, see what the charter says about that. Look at that. All right, C7-2A, the terms of office on all appointed boards and commissions shall commence on the first Monday of January unless otherwise required by law or provided by this charter. The length of term shall be hereafter specified.
Where are you reading it?
It's from the actual charter, so, section C7-2A.
Terms of office.
Yep.
7-2, okay.
Nick,
Yep.
so for the Board of Finance, C3-5, the way that reads is the Board of Finance shall consist of 7 members, each of whom is elected for a term of 4 years.
Yep.
The members shall serve overlapping terms. So it is,
Yeah, so it's not,
I don't
But
know if
these are
it's that-
appointed.
it's,
These aren't
this one,
elected.
yeah, and it's a unique board because 3 of them are fixed to the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
So what do you do with the other 4?
I think we need to have Nick help us.
Right, yeah, we need to hold it.
Yeah. And it's because the minority representation applies as well, so it'd be a max of 4 from one party on 7.
Yeah.
Yep.
You would be considered a board of 4 because we're excluding the elected selectmen and first selectmen?
No,
Well, you would have
even
to-
minority
Or it would be 7, so you'd
representation.
have a
Need
minority
minority
of 4.
representation.
Yeah, so it'd be,
A minority of 3.
yeah, whoever the 2 selectmen of one party,
Oh, okay, so
Plus-
that's already 2
plus
of the 4.
2 more appointed of
Right,
that party.
right, got it.
and it'd be
Got it.
1
And then
plus
you got a
2.
minority of 3.
Yeah, yep. So it's essentially, 2 from each.
Right.
So we should just mirror that, or there's nothing to mirror it to, because it's different, this is
Yeah.
appointed,
Yeah,
not
'cause
elected.
it's appointed.
Yeah, yep.
Okay,
And it's a merged board, 3 of them are dictated by the first or the
Right,
selectmen
got it.
By the
election.
election of the, right.
yeah,
So, so it's literally it's a merged, elected appointed board. How would you stagger that? Because if you staggered it,
should do,
and it's still 2-2, even if it flips, you're still within minority representation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
Like if we
Right.
did a
Yep.
2 or 3 year, or 3 or 4 year term for the appointed members. And it would only be addressing the appointed members, cause we can't extend the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
yeah.
You have
But
to
the
take-
problem is if you have a change in the first selectman and you appoint it for 4 years, you
Yeah.
just lose the minority. If the party, if the office changes.
Yeah,
Right, so it would have to be 2.
well, but the way it sets up, it'd still be 2-2, because you couldn't have more than 4 for your the dominant party.
But you still could have an independent win,
Mm-hmm.
so then you've got another party affiliation you have to consider.
Well, that's still, but that would be one of the minorities.
Okay.
Yeah,
What does the current one say?
the current, the PUC? The Board of Selectmen shall
7-2A.
appoint in accordance with the provisions of this charter, a Public Utilities Commission consisting of 5 members, 3 of which shall be the Board of Selectmen. The commission members shall serve a 2-year term. The terms of the selectmen members shall run from the time they take office. The remaining 2 members shall be appointed by the selectmen in accordance with section C7-2A. Said commission shall have all the powers and duties not inconsistent with this charter and are now or may hereafter be conferred or imposed upon such commissions by the Connecticut General Statutes, special acts or local ordinance with the duties and powers previously exercised and discharged by the Sewer Authority and Water Commission of the Town of Bethel. Such transfers of powers and duties having been made in accordance with C 11-11 of this charter and as such, other duties may be prescribed by the Board of Selectmen. To me, I think that answers it. If we're already at 2, all we're doing is making the party, or the committee bigger by 2 members. We're kind of fixing a problem that doesn't really exist. You know, if something goes awry, you know, the next charter can look into it, but I think just making the simple 7, you know, approving the change.
Yeah, because they have to revert back to minority representation
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
So
everything
They can't,
is-
right, the charter already talks
Yeah.
about that, right?
It's
That's fair.
it's a number switch, it's not a, there's no. Alright, so I will read the changes to C7-11, Public Utilities Commission. The Board of Selectmen shall appoint in accordance with the provisions of this charter, a Public Utilities Commission consisting of 7 members, 3 of which shall be the Board of Selectmen. The commission members shall serve a 2-year term. The terms of the selectmen members shall run from the time that they take office. The remaining 4 members shall be appointed by the selectmen in accordance with section C7-2A. I'll make a motion to accept those edits as read.
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, 6-0, that passes. Okay. Any other,
I'm trying to think of what else we didn't vote on, maybe. This is from the C3-3 vacancies and C7-1 appointments by Board of Selectmen. It's on the, no, it's on the
what's
bottom.
that, C7-1?
On C
Oh,
three,
we do.
C3-3. I'm not sure where we, oh yeah, we did vote, no, that's C7-5 that we voted on.
C3-3, I have as passed.
there were no changes.
Right.
There was
Yeah.
nothing that was voted
Right.
on.
Okay, that passed.
There was no action.
Yep.
Okay.
C 36, C7-9A, C7-15, add verbiage clarifying overlap in terms of these boards and commissions. This was tabled.
C7 dash, what is it?
It's the
Oh,
first one on the second page.
C7 dash
10 Beagle,
15. Yep.
1/16/2019.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
This one up here on top.
C7
That's
dash?
from this chart.
Yeah, and 9.
C36.
3,
Oh,
6,
okay.
7, 9, here. All of those.
Thank you.
There's nothing in here.
Yeah.
I don't see an edit on that.
Yeah, I don't,
Did you
It's
do
just a
like
lot of
that?
words, but I
Mhm.
don't see anything wrong with it.
yeah, and I'm not seeing any
No,
shared inconsistencies.
clarifying overlapping terms. So,
Overlapping terms
Yeah.
with these boards and commissions.
Oh, I see, so C3-6 is the Board of Ed, and I don't, let me just read through it, it doesn't read that there's offsetting or overlapping,
doesn't mention it.
yeah.
So what Tim wanted was inserting that language into these
Yeah.
sections that don't note, okay. And that's something that I would think McVitie has to do.
Yeah, well, we have it, didn't we just read it about the Board of Finance shall consist of 7 members, each of whom is elected to a term of 4 years. The members shall serve overlapping terms.
Right.
So I think we need to add that to those sections.
So then why did we table it last week when Nick was here? Is there another?
I think to get clarification.
Overlapping, so that would,
Yeah, so,
you can just insert that phrase.
yeah, yeah.
So when you say elected for a term of 4 years, the members shall serve overlapping.
Mm-hmm. Shall appoint in accordance with the Christian Charter Youth Commission consisting of 5 members. Yeah, so C7-9 is the youth commission, says the Board of Selectmen shall appoint in accordance to the provision of the charter a youth commission consisting of 5 members, each of whom shall serve a term of 2 years, and said terms shall overlap. So it's already covered in there.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
Youth
That's C7-9,
Okay.
and
So-
then. Okay. So, is the insurance and pension, do they overlap as well? Or are they all at one, do you know?
I think they overlap.
Yeah, okay,
That's an important word.
yeah, yep. So, yeah, I think what Mr. Beba wants is just to have the charter reflect the function. It's not really, yeah. Okay. Alright, so we'll send that to Nick just to add in those changes.
Are you gonna make a motion to do that?
Um,
Or just-
yeah, I'll make a motion to send these edits to Attorney Biddy to make the changes.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? Actually, one thing, so, I don't think it really matters. On the Board of Finance, it reads, the members shall serve overlapping terms. A lone sentence, for the Youth Commission, says Youth Commission consisting of 5 members, each of whom shall serve a term of 2 years, and said term shall overlap. We don't need,
Right, you need it in the Board of Ed is, I think, where it's.
yeah,
missing.
yeah, but it doesn't need to be identical
No,
verbiage, but, okay,
but you need the clause in
Yeah,
someplace.
yep.
in that.
okay. All right, any other discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, I'll move it for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstaining? 6-0-0. All right. Is there any other open issues? I think we're,
I think we did the rest.
so now, will we need to set up another meeting before we go to the public hearing?
Nick, can I just interject?
Sure.
First we have to,
Something that we could discuss before we go to that.
Yep.
I know we voted on the selectmen's recommendation for 4-year terms. But I think that's a big issue, and if we leave it the way it is now, we, to my understanding, are not giving the selectmen the opportunity to even discuss it or bring it at a public hearing that they have. Because we have basically said, no, we've taken it off the table. Is that correct? That's how I understand it.
And in other words, because I wanna clarify it in my mind too, at a public hearing, because I've never been to a Charter Revision Commission public hearing, can the selectmen bring that up, or somebody, the only way it can get discussed is if it's public input?
Yeah, and the final report we send, it'll cover everything we went over. And so
But can
the-
we say we voted against it? Because we did,
Mhm.
and we voted party lines and it failed. So, 4
I'm
to 3 or
unaffiliated,
whatever,
so,
well, but
Yeah,
however,
these
if-
Democrats appointed me here,
Right.
yeah,
so
okay.
let's not
So
make this
anyway,
political.
well, anyway, it failed.
Yep,
And it's my understanding, and I did discuss this with Nick, that basically anything that we have said no to would not necessarily be in our report, because we're sending to the selectmen what we are recommending as changes.
yeah.
And that would be a new item, so that is just gone.
So we can't
Well, but
add
I
that?
think the
Alright.
discussion we had around it of investigating other forms of government is ultimately gonna be the suggestion
But if you're saying
that
that's-
we're gonna propose, if you guys don't agree, investigating, creating a committee to look at other
But
forms
we're
of government.
suggesting that to the selectmen to do.
Yes.
We're not doing that. Okay, so when I asked Nick about it, his impression to me was that since we have basically taken it off the table for discussion, because we voted against it, they can't bring it up or make another recommendation to us to come back and discuss it, because it's gone. The only way they could is if we tell them, or basically allow them to take it to a public hearing and put it on their public hearing agenda, so to speak.
So then we could put it in a are you saying, put it in a when we
What
send our
what
letter?
are we trying to achieve? Are you trying
Well,
to
I
reverse the
think my
vote?
feeling on
Is
this,
that-
no, I'm not gonna
No.
ask anybody to reverse their
Okay.
vote. What I'm
Ooh,
asking,
now I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel
no,
better.
I'm not
No,
asking
no,
you to reverse
no.
your vote. I feel this is an important issue that the voters of the town should say, yes, we want a 4-year, or no, we don't. We have
They
taken.
did 5 years ago though.
Yeah, but that's
But that's 5 years
Well,
ago.
Understood, but we're using that, then why don't we move forward, changing the town meeting again?
All right, why
Because
then?
5 years ago they
All right,
changed
then
it.
answer my question
different
this way.
issue.
All right, just a minute, Terry.
Mhm.
We have taken recommendations to change titles of employees. We have taken recommendations that you don't have to go out to bid, you can go to a consortium. We've taken a lot of recommendation from employees
Okay,
and department heads that are not elected.
okay.
They're appointed people paid by the taxpayers. And I just personally feel that the electorate in this town should have the right to have some input.
So then why do we have a charter revision
Yeah,
committee?
It's contrary to the whole purpose of this. Yeah,
Right.
Like,
We were charged with looking at these recommendations, we were appointed, and that's our job.
But then why are we taking all the recommendations of employees?
No,
Why
we're taking
would
all
we?
the recommendations and we're voting on them,
responsibility of the town.
and 7 people are making decisions here, and that's how it's being decided.
Right, but if
Okay,
we feel
I'm not
strongly-
gonna argue the point, that's
Right.
just,
Oh,
I just would like
But I don't
to
think
see-
any of us are arguing.
I just would like to see the townspeople that live in this town, pay taxes in this town, have a little say in it. Because our public hearings were not overabundantly of people coming and making suggestions. They were very poorly attended.
Yeah, but.
And then only maybe a third or a fourth of them even spoke up.
And so what is that a reflection of?
That they don't, either they don't care or they don't, I don't know. I really don't
For
know.
whatever reason, they don't come to the meeting, they're working, they have families, I mean, obviously, the entire town's not gonna come to the meeting.
I read an
I
article.
don't understand
I
how
read,
that
wait a minute,
applies.
I read an article today,
you
80,000
asked for it.
people live in Danbury, less than 20,000 people voted for a mayor.
No, I understand that, but the point is, we're talking about one specific issue. So here's my final question. Obviously, I agree with Sharon, and I know we talked about this last week also. Obviously, we're not trying to get anybody to change their vote, that would be unethical. But my point is it possible when we send so it's gonna be in the form of a letter, right? Changes,
final
ABC,
report, yep.
blah, blah, final report. Can we make notes to them as far as this, what is it, C3-4 was voted against? However, we would like more discussion on it, or we would like the public, as Sharon had said, the public to be able to discuss it at the public hearing. Can it be brought up at the public hearing by the person?
And then why would I make a motion and try to get 4 out of 7 people to vote in favor of a motion that I just made?
Well, I guess it's because.
Your end goal is you want, regardless of your saying it out loud, you want the vote to change. You want,
No,
you
I'm
want
not.
it to move to
No,
I
public
want
referendum.
more
We want the
input
vote to
on
change,
that
more
subject.
input by the public.
Then I can't send the final report. Then we need to have another public input session, and we already voted on this. Like, it's outside of the process to do that. Like, it's not.
And the percentage of people that were against extending it to a 4-year at the public hearing, I was taking notes. I don't think you're gonna win that vote. So we could extend it, we could have another public hearing, and then we could listen to it all again, but then everybody could try to get their side there, and we could take a vote again.
All right, was it not a recommendation by the Board of Selectmen for us to discuss it?
It was, and we discussed it thoroughly. We're discussing it now. Mr. Knickerbocker presented an alternative form of government, which I personally feel is exactly what Bethel needs.
And that could be in a recommendation at the end of our report. But I would not be in favor of having a recommendation to send it to the voters to talk about it, because I was appointed to a charter revision to look at it,
Right,
and we looked at it.
right. So this is the last, I'll say on the subject, because this really sticks in my mind. I just feel that this is such an important issue, and the voters elect the Board of Selectmen, so why shouldn't they have the right and the opportunity to decide how long they serve? I mean, sure, it may be voted down.
Because the
That's
committee
right.
that the Board of Selectmen seated to review it voted against it. I mean, that's the simple function, that's the way we function as a government.
And I think that this Charter Revision Commission was very open-minded, and I didn't think it was gonna go, the vote was gonna go that way until after the last public hearing, and they were very vocal and they didn't want it.
So I have a question. You had mentioned the next public hearing. Now, are they only allowed to discuss what we, approved and passed for changes, or can they discuss
It's
anything?
not our public hearing, it's the Board of Selectmen's
their
public hearing.
public
Alright, so
But
the
they
board,
can
the Board
only
of
do
Selectmen
ours.
can only discuss what we give them as we're recommending for changes. In that letter, can we put down, these are the changes we passed, passed and recommend, these are the recommendations that we considered that did not pass? Would that give the opportunity for the public to give one more input into the decisions that were made? Because my understanding is they're only allowed to discuss what's in that letter.
That's what
If
Nick
everything-
explained to me.
I mean, I would love for the public to be able to discuss everything and, say, if they felt otherwise the way we voted or something. I mean, these are the recommendations that we support changing. These are recommendations that we discussed that we feel at this time or not, however you
So
want.
let me just, I'll
Okay.
outline the state statute. All right, so this is where we're at. So public hearings of the Board of Selectmen, at least one after commission's draft report is submitted to the town clerk. So we haven't submitted it to the town clerk yet. Last public hearing must be held not later than 45 days after submission of commission's report. All right, following that, the Board of Selectmen can make recommendations to the commission before the commission's report is final. Must be done within 15 days after the Board of Selectmen's last public hearing. May confer with the commission. Board of Selectmen makes no recommendations and the commission's report is final. The commission must finalize the report within 30 days after the Board of Selectmen's recommendations on their draft. Within 15 days of the final commission report, the Board of Selectmen, by majority vote, must approve or reject the proposed charter amendments. If the Board of Selectmen rejects, then the voters of the town may petition for referendum. If the Board of Selectmen accepts the commission's report, then the publication in a newspaper must be made within 30 days. Bold charter or proposed amendments with copies available to the public. Board of Selectmen to determine whether amendments shall be submitted to the town vote at a regular or special election must be within 15 days of the Board of Selectmen approval or certification for referendum.
So it doesn't say what has to be in that.
Yeah, so they can make recommendations that we review that again.
Because
And
my assumption is our recommendations to the selectmen, the report, whatever you wanna call it, will be public information. So people going to this meeting, this public hearing for the selectmen will see what we supported changes and what we didn't support changes. And then they have the opportunity to discuss all of it.
That's not the way Nick Beatty explained it to me.
I'm saying if it's in the, I don't understand, if it's in the letter, can they discuss it, even if it wasn't passed? Cause I'm, public input, they should be able to discuss, even if
Right,
it's
I
something
agree
new.
with you, but
you
as Nick explained it to me, we give to the Board of Selectmen only what we all agreed upon. Nothing else
Yeah,
is added to
the-
it.
I
Am I right?
talked to Matt earlier this week about this, and it's, in everything you read, just support what he's told me. You will present your recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen can put anything, any of their original recommendations, they can put those back on the table. They just at that time cannot add anything new, which,
Well, then,
Is
to
that-
Sharon's
that is the
point,
way
then they're
that
doing it
is.
anyway.
what?
Well, that's not the way Nick Beatty explained it to me. He said that they could only do what recommendations we gave to them. And then they could accept or deny.
Okay, so Matt said this week,
Well-
that any recommendation that he initially charged the commission with, they could put back on the
Yes.
table for a public hearing.
Yes,
And then what
and
would
that's
happen?
what Nick just
We
read.
will reconsider.
the
That
process,
supports exactly what Nick just read, so.
Cause I think after the
No,
public
it's
hearing
what we
comes back and
accepted,
we,
I think you said, what we,
Excuse me?
our recommendations for change. It's not, if we have not, and we've not agreed to something, that doesn't go to them.
the draft report will include even the
What we
things that fail.
accepted.
Yes.
Yeah, and an explanation why. I think, to me, that's just courtesy. I mean, they put things forward to
and the public as well,
Yeah.
needs to know what the
And-
thing
and-
was.
all the things that we looked at. And if you remember, we're also gonna make other suggestions in terms of what we've heard to relay that to the Board of Selectmen in terms of communications, looking at, broader opportunity of videoing and utilizing technology to improve those, which aren't charter issues, but they're issues that they were brought to our attention, so we're gonna relay those as.
So what if during this public input from the selectmen, it comes up, I don't know, nothing about the 4-year term, let's say about the split budget or something to be reconsidered. Do we meet again and then
Yeah.
possibly reconsider?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But was the split, it was.
No, it was
in
just
the
a general, I
original
was just
charge.
doing,
Yeah.
getting away
It
from the
was.
4-year.
It would have to be.
Well, it
in the
wasn't a
original.
split, it was the failure to adopt, it was the.
Okay,
Right,
that
right.
could be added, because it was in the
Yeah.
original charge.
Being able to
He
tap
also
into.
said that when it goes to vote, it would have to be passed by 15% of the population of Bethel.
Yeah,
be
have to be
accepted.
50% turnout too, yeah,
Yes.
yep. So,
If
and
not,
but that's
then
why it's
null and
important we
void.
keep this on track so we can align it to the budget referendum.
And is it it's one line item?
No, and then
Each
the Board
item
of
is a
Selectmen can
line.
determine how they,
They
Okay, I
would
didn't know
determine
that.
how it goes on the,
and
on
we'll,
the-
and
on
we'll
the
make
application.
suggestions with that as well,
Yeah.
but
technical
they can,
changes.
they would have the final say how it goes on the,
I wasn't sure, thank you.
on the
And,
ballot.
and in the past, I mean, you can make things poison pills as well by grouping them together,
No,
you know,
Yeah.
and, yeah.
so, when we do the recommendation, they can talk about the 4-year term at the public hearing. It's not barred from
If
discussion.
it's brought up,
Mhm.
by somebody else, not by them, is my understanding.
I don't
Well,
see
usually a
anything.
public hearing is, it goes by what the public says anyway.
Mhm.
Okay,
All right.
all right.
I mean, and
Thank you.
that's the opportunity if there, suddenly becomes an overwhelming support for a 4-year term for the Board of Selectmen, then obviously we missed something. And, we'll have to reassess that when we have our follow-up meeting,
Okay,
all right?
thank you.
Any other conversations?
Okay, the only other thing that I saw
Sure.
in here is the ballot language. One item referendums to not allow STM timeline in general elections or referendum is in close proximity. No action taken. Was
Yeah, no
that
action taken on
Because we
that.
just decided not to do anything?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
All right, that was the only other thing I
Mhm.
saw.
Okay, so it's really, Nick just has a couple things to clean up.
Mhm.
There's really no heavy lift there, right? And so the dates you mentioned for the public hearing,
So we're going to have another at least another meeting first, right?
we were gonna
We
have to.
Because we have to talk to Nick and we have to get the final draft and,
Hold on a second, I'm just looking. Do you know the dates you threw out there?
Well, I had thrown out, Monday, the November 25th.
Okay,
That would give us enough time for Nick to get back into town and,
yeah.
But now, does that mean we've gotta get another special meeting in before we do?
Yeah, if we want to wrap up the changes we talked about tonight,
right.
to get them done.
So to me, we set a date for the special meeting, and
Mhm.
then at that point, we set a date for anything else that we need to.
Okay. And that Monday, that's the week of
That's the
Thanksgiving?
that's the Monday before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So you could either do that, or you could move it to the first week of December.
How does
But
that affect?
again-
Are you setting the meeting for the town, for the Board of Selectmen?
No, our meeting.
Our meeting.
Oh, all right.
But don't we
No, no,
need
no,
to
they,
approve,
yeah, we would have to,
We
our
need-
next meeting would be to wrap up this,
and
approve
to
it.
approve the draft
Yeah,
that Nick
approve the
is,
draft
that
report.
Nick is gonna give to the Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
think
no,
one
we're
meeting-
gonna give to the Board of
You think
Selectmen,
one
yeah.
meeting's enough for that? I'm just thinking about it, I'm not sure.
What was the question, I'm sorry?
It's,
Do you
I mean,
think
it's
one
not,
meeting
it's
is
not gonna
enough
be
For that? I don't
too
know.
new, it's really just reporting the actions, I mean, it's,
So he'll have the final draft done, he'll be able to have the final draft done by the meeting, is what you're saying?
well, I'll author the
Oh, yeah,
final
you do.
draft report,
Okay.
he just does the
Oh,
legal
okay.
stuff.
Well, then, and
Well, he's-
then if he's gonna do that, then you might be able to get it in the week, if you're gonna do it that way, where
Mhm.
he's not, doing all that, then you might be able to get that special meeting the week of the 18th.
I will not be here.
He's not back until Wednesday,
No, that's not, it's not. gonna be-
next Wednesday,
So,
he's not
would
back.
it, how about we would a Monday night work for everybody?
Yes, for me, it does, works
Like
for
the
me.
25th, is anybody out of town
I'm good.
for Thanksgiving?
We have a wetland meeting, but I'll let him know I won't be there.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's schedule a special meeting for that, so we can review these final edits.
You wanna make a motion for that?
Yeah, let's make a motion to schedule a special meeting on Monday, November 25th.
7 PM?
Yeah, for the purpose of reviewing the final pieces of, Mr. Vitti's work, and reviewing the draft report.
Meeting remain.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, passes 6-0.
So we do not have we don't have another public.
None.
No, we'll attend the one at the Board of Selectmen.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. All right, any other issues, concerns? Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. See you on the 25th.